Western media will tell you about coups, they'll tell you about poverty, instability, and failed states. But here's what they won't tell you. Africa is strategically choosing Brics over the West, and this profound shift is reshaping the global order. This is the critical geopolitical story being deliberately underreported, a narrative omission with immense implications for international business, global governance, and the future of the global South. For decades, major Western outlets, CNN, BBC, The Economist, have meticulously crafted and controlled the global narrative on Africa. They consistently paint a picture of a continent perpetually mired in poverty, instability, and an unending need for external help. This portrayal, often rooted in colonial-era stereotypes, conveniently overlooks Africa's vast resources, dynamic economies, and burgeoning youth populations. It rarely acknowledges African nations as strategic players or sovereign entities capable of charting their own course. This persistent narrative serves a distinct geopolitical purpose: to justify continued Western influence, maintain economic leverage, and obscure the true potential of African agency. It deliberately downplays any significant shifts in alliances, especially the growing strategic alignment between African nations and the BRICS bloc: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The silence on this front is deafening because admitting Africa is turning away from traditional Western partners would necessitate acknowledging a significant decline in Western influence and a fundamental reordering of global power dynamics. This isn't just about news, it's about the strategic control of information. BRICS began as an economic concept, a grouping of rapidly developing economies. Today it has evolved into a formidable geopolitical counterweight to the US-dominated unipolar system, challenging institutions like the IMF, World Bank, and NATO. For many African nations, BRICS represents far more than just an alternative trade bloc. It embodies a pathway to genuine sovereignty, fairer economic deals, and long overdue global respect. It offers a multilateral platform where their voices are heard and their interests are considered without the historical baggage of conditional aid or prescriptive governance models. The strategic implications of this shift are profound. BRICS offers a framework for South-South cooperation, emphasizing mutual benefit and non-interference in internal affairs. This approach resonates deeply across Africa, a continent historically subjected to external dictates. Quietly, yet decisively, a significant realignment is underway. Over 13 African countries have formally applied to join BRICS or its new development bank, signaling a clear intent to diversify their economic and political partnerships. China and Russia are increasingly engaging in direct trade deals, often bypassing the US dollar, while India is significantly ramping up investments in critical African infrastructure and energy sectors. This isn't merely a transactional shift, it's a strategic reorientation towards a multipolar world. The West did not lose Africa overnight. This strategic pivot is the culmination of decades of unfulfilled promises, lopsided aid packages, and often destabilizing military interventions. African nations have grown weary of conditional assistance that often undermines their sovereignty and economic autonomy. The historical legacy of exploitation, coupled with contemporary policies perceived as neo-colonial, has created a fertile ground for alternative partnerships. African leaders are increasingly asserting their right to self-determination and seeking relationships based on mutual respect and shared development goals. In stark contrast, BRICS nations have offered a different paradigm. They emphasize respect for national sovereignty, engaging in deals without the often patronizing lectures on governance or human rights that frequently accompany Western aid. Crucially, BRICS provides tangible alternatives to the US-dominated financial and political architecture. We've seen France's diminishing influence in the Sahel, exemplified by its military withdrawal from Mali and Niger. Simultaneously, China has become a leading partner in building vital infrastructure, from railroads in Kenya to ports in Djibouti, facilitating trade and connectivity. Russia, too, has expanded its influence, supplying grain and arms to Sahel countries, often filling security vacuums. Africa is no longer merely asking for a seat at the table. It is actively building new tables, choosing partners who align with its strategic vision for a more equitable global order. So, why does Western media largely ignore or misrepresent this profound BRICS-Africa alliance? The answer lies in the immense stakes involved. Western media narratives are inextricably linked to Western geopolitical and economic interests. If BRICS successfully expands its influence across Africa, the United States and Europe stand to lose significant control over critical resources, vital trade routes, and crucial voting power within global institutions like the UN. This isn't just about journalistic oversight, it's a strategic omission, a deliberate shaping of public perception to maintain a geopolitical advantage. The implications extend to the very foundations of global financial power. The potential crumbling of the IMF and World Bank's unchallenged authority, symbolized by their logos metaphorically crumbling, represents a direct threat to the existing financial order. The visual of African maps adorned with BRICS flags is a powerful symbol of this emerging alignment, one that Western news anchors are often seen cutting away from. This isn't merely news reporting, it's a sophisticated form of information warfare where the narrative itself becomes a weapon. Audiences are deliberately presented with only one side of a complex, multifaceted story designed to preserve the status quo and obscure the true extent of the global power shift. For nations across the global south, from India to Bangladesh, this strategic shift is nothing short of revolutionary. As BRICS continues to grow and deepen its ties with Africa, the implications for global trade, resource access, and economic independence are monumental. Trade patterns are increasingly shifting towards South-South cooperation, fostering direct economic relationships that bypass traditional Western intermediaries. This means more direct access to resources for developing nations and a reduced reliance on Western financial systems and currencies. The West, in this evolving landscape, becomes less necessary as the sole arbiter of global trade and finance. This isn't just Africa rising, it's the global South collectively asserting its agency and rewriting the global rulebook. The footage of leaders like Modi engaging with African counterparts, the proliferation of South-South shipping lines, and the growing influence of the BRICS New Development Bank all underscore this fundamental transformation. It signifies a move towards a more balanced, multipolar world where economic power and political influence are distributed more equitably, challenging centuries of Western dominance. Western media will undoubtedly continue to focus on instability and corruption in Africa, perpetuating a narrative that serves their geopolitical interests. But what they strategically omit is the undeniable truth. Africa is actively forging powerful new alliances, and the BRICS bloc stands firmly at the center of this transformative process. This is the story that fundamentally changes everything we thought we knew about global power dynamics. It's a narrative of self-determination, economic diversification, and the strategic rebalancing of international relations. If you seek to truly understand the intricate geopolitical chess game unfolding before our eyes, to stay ahead of the curve in international business, and to grasp the profound implications for the African diaspora and the global South, then you must look beyond the headlines, hit subscribe and follow Politics, Power, and Policy, where we commit to uncovering the truth behind the headlines, providing the strategic analysis you need to navigate this rapidly changing world. Engage with us, share your insights, and be part of the conversation that shapes our collective future. And until next time, my friends, stay safe and informed.